Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock, let's go over the market, let's talk about what is happening, what we can expect moving forward for Tesla, and yeah, all that good stuff. So as per usual, ladies and gentlemen, if you do enjoy this video, please don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice and I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you do enjoy my thoughts, technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, etc., 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 I do share my thoughts with my members every single day the market is trading. For instance, obviously this morning I was giving my thoughts with Tesla in the morning as it was dipping, right? All morning, giving my members, my updates at the very least, talking about how, we're at supports and then giving them the support levels below if it were to get a little bit worse. But nonetheless, held pretty well. Again, that's just $3 a month. Or for $5 a month, you get access to everything I just said. So Tesla and sometimes other stocks, plus NVIDIA daily updates. That link is below. I'd love to have you there. But jumping into it, Tesla closing the day down 0.6%, which honestly, not the worst thing in the world. Not the worst thing in the world, mainly because, it did start off pretty well, right? We had a nice gap up, then kind of got sold off. Which, we started off decently well, and then we sold off pretty aggressively, pretty quickly, actually. And I think that the lowest point of the day, we were down like 3, maybe 4%, something like that. And we recovered most of it and ended up, for the most part, closing pretty flat, right? And compared to the market, of course, it's a bit of an underperformance naturally. But, it's not the worst thing in the world, right? And the reason it's not the worst thing in the world is because, so obviously over the weekend, and well, actually more specifically, I believe it was yesterday, we had that Elon incident. I'm not going to go over, too, in depth as to what happened. I'm sure if you're someone that trades or invests in Tesla, I hope you know, because you should know what happened. Bit of a situation, right, with Elon. Nonetheless, how much of that attributed to the sell-off, who knows, right? Maybe Trump actually saying that again, that he's going to remove the EV credits. Maybe that was the reason for the sell-off. It's hard to say. It's hard to pinpoint these things too easily, right? Which is why I usually just follow the technicals. And, the technicals suggested on Friday, remember how I mentioned how, it's kind of an iffy close. I wasn't really confident one way or the other. Well, this is a pretty good example as to why. And today kind of proved it, right? Well, we were kind of just like up and down pretty aggressively for the most part. So what does this mean moving forward though, right? Well, we're still, because we closed 0.5% down, essentially, we're still pretty much in the same position we were on Friday, right? Where it's hard to really say with strong confidence what the next actual direction on Tesla is. Why? Well, the bullish perspective, right? What is the bullish perspective? The bullish perspective as well, of course, we had this nice looking bull flag, right? Nice little move up here, nice looking bull flag. Everything played out arguably pretty textbook, and we broke out, we came back, we've been pretty much retesting it the past few days, more or less, right? And in theory, this is where you pretty much bounce off here as we've been continuing to hold, and we just essentially make our way higher, right? That's the quote unquote expected path, I guess is the way to put it, right? That's kind of what makes the most sense. But the reason that the reason I'm not super 100% convinced on it is, one, we have this arguable bear flag, or at the very least a rising channel, right? You can make an argument this was just a massive sell-off obviously we had, and now we're essentially forming what could be a bear flag. I don't think it's going to be, which is why I do overall lean more bullish than bearish. If I had to pick, I definitely lean more bullish than bearish, maybe 60-40, 65-35, something like that, right? But it's hard for me to completely ignore the fact that, this could be a bit of a bear flag situation setting up on the daily. I don't think it is, but it's hard to completely ignore it, right? Where, to really nullify this, to really, have this kind of more or less invalidate, we'd want to at the very least break above Friday's high, which is pretty much 440, to make a move up to about 460, right? That's kind of what you want to see to, essentially invalidate this potential bearish thesis, right? So watch for that moving forward. The bears will also be talking about it in this kind of sense, where you take the Fibonacci from the high to the low over here, and you have that 445-618 Fibonacci level, with the next one being in the 460s, the Fibonacci levels. Those are the main levels the bears will be most likely trying to attack essentially Tesla at, right? So, watching these kind of things unfold, makes me not super convinced, at the very least, while we're in this kind of, still within this sort of limbo land type scenario, right? Where, there's no real obvious direction until we, at the very least, like I said, break 440, which then it definitely becomes more, the ball is in the bull's court, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. Or the bears will really start to get a lot more traction if we essentially lose the bottom of this, essentially what could be the bear flag / slightly rising channel, which, if it were to happen sometime this week around 385-ish, right? 385 would be the level to watch out for, which will also line up with this yellow line right here, which, if I'm not mistaken, I believe I have it as the 50 EMA, right? That should be the 50 EMA. It is the 50 EMA, right? So that would be the other thing to watch out for. This yellow line is the 50 EMA. So, it's kind of like the market bias. I'm using it instead of the market bias. The market bias is still really, really good. I'm not sure which one I like more still, but the EMA with this EMA over here, with the crossovers are, pretty powerful stuff. But, that would be another point to watch for, which, would act as a support, right? Naturally, we could, in theory, still come down all the way down here to about 385. Bounce off the bottom of this rising channel trend line, if you will, which at that point, if it happens to say later this week or something like that, maybe Thursday or Friday, would pretty much coincide with that 50 EMA, and that should act as a double support. And then from here we can maybe blast our way up, which coincidentally enough, if it were to happen, will also be yet another retest of this bull flag breakout that we've had, which could be another example of something that can happen. And you have to remember, Tesla is a stock that likes to fake things out many ways in both directions. So this kind of move would, I think, scare a lot of bulls, make a lot of bears very excited just for the bulls to get trapped here, the bears get trapped here, and then we potentially make our way up to 460 from here. That to me is kind of like my base case scenario. That's kind of what I want to see happen. I don't know if it'll happen. Again, we're kind of in limbo land here. But if I had to lay out a plan that I would like to see happen, which again, don't forget, just because I want to see it happen doesn't mean it's going to happen, of course. But that to me would trap the most amount of people. It would make the move, at least in my opinion, the most confusing. And a lot of people will panic up here. Again, bulls up here that are pretty much buying right now, more or less, will panic. Bears are probably panicking a little bit right now. Then down here, the bulls will start, the bears will start to get excited, and the bulls will start to panic even more. The bulls will panic down here from the ones that bought up here, and then the bears down here will get excited, and then once we rocket from here, the bears will start panicking up here. So to me, this is the most trappy type situation. Just my opinion, of course. So let's see. Now, the other reason I'm not super excited, or I'm not jumping up and down for joy thinking that this move is just going to rocket much past 460. Let's just say we do break above 440 and we do rocket to 460 roughly. The reason, at least as of right now, I don't expect this to be too crazy of a move much higher. At the very least, I think best case scenario is closer to 500, is because on the weekly, and I mentioned this before, and I'll of course reiterate it once again, yes, we of course are retesting that email cloud, but we're just barely touching it. And the thing I don't like is the fact that we're still very far away from the mean, if you will, on the Bollinger Bands on the weekly. The 50 moving average is all the way down here. The market bias is all the way down here. So we're still very far away from essentially two very important mean price reversion type signals, right? Again, the reason I bring this up is because, and I've said this many times, and I'll say it once again, is this a drawing? What is this? It is a drawing. And I said this before, and I'll say it again, right? Every single time the stock gets too far away from the yellow line or the white line, which in the middle, whether it's to the upside or to the downside, it doesn't matter if it's to the upside or to the downside, whichever direction, more often than not, at some point or another, you revert back to the mean. For instance, back here where Tesla was selling off very aggressive. This was back when Elon was selling shares, I'm sure. Sure some of you remember that. But you can see, we sold off so aggressively. And what did we do? We didn't just slowly bleed back up and revert to the mean, over the course of months and months and months and months. We actually did it pretty quickly. It took maybe 2 months. That's it, down. We went all the way down from $100 per share to $210 per share. Very fast, very aggressive snap back to the mean, right? So you have to understand, the point is I'm trying to make is the fact that whenever you're too far away from the center, essentially, you don't stay too far away from it for too long. And that's kind of where we find ourselves right now, which is why a lot of people are calling it this bull flag breakout, which is going to send Tesla to well into the 500s. And it may. Again, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. I don't want to act like it's, the one guy that's not overly excited and everyone else is, sort of thing. But again, my main concern is just because, one of my favorite ways to trade is mean reversion, right? I like buying stocks that are really far away and really oversold, of course, of good companies. Not every company this will work on, of course, but of good companies, strong companies, right? Any Max 7s or even AMD, honestly, ultimately, right? When they're too far away from the mean to the bottom, or I start getting more cautious when they're too far away from the upside. In this case, again, we're a little bit far away from the upside, which is why, despite me still thinking that 460 is still on the table, I just don't see us going well beyond that yet, because we're just still so far away from these two lines down here, and I don't like that, right? It's just hard for me to believe that the stock will run up that aggressively without, at the very least, first reverting back to the mean, which again, either means we come back down into it, which at the moment will be somewhere in the, we'll say mid 300s, or ultimately we don't do a whole lot and we essentially kind of go sideways in this general vicinity and we wait for them to catch up to us. Something up, or we meet in the middle. But something along the lines of that is what I want to see before I get more confident about Tesla making its way, actually anything meaningfully higher, rather than just a move to 460 or best case scenario high 400s. Anyways, that's my overall thought process on it right now, right? That's just kind of what I'm expecting right now. That's kind of what I'm, my personal perspective. Again, especially on the weekly time frame, we have a bit of a bearish divergence setting up over here on the RSI, right? We have a bit of a divergence, or not divergence, just straight up bearish crossover on the stochastic on the weekly. So, I'm seeing these kind of things, and I'm personally not convinced that we're gonna rocket to some crazy levels yet. I think it'll take time. I think it'll take longer than people are anticipating. Personally speaking, I could be wrong. Again, just my opinion. But let's see how it goes. Earnings, of course, is not that far away. That could be a potential major factor and catalyst for one way or the other. You never know, right? Hard to say for sure. But that's kind of my general perspective right now. So let's just see how this plays out. We'll take it day by day. But again, don't be too surprised if Tesla, yes, it'll still be volatile. Yes, it can still go to 460, maybe even high 400s, like closer to 500 itself. But again, I don't expect much higher than that. So don't be too surprised if ultimately we don't get this massive run up next week that everyone's expecting well into the 500s, right? Maybe even 600. I think it'll take a bit longer than people anticipate. Again, just my opinion. Could be wrong. We'll see. Netflix up 13%. I'm very happy about that. I actually bought shares pretty much right here as it was oversold. Look at this. Beautiful. Oversold RSI and Bollinger Band. Man, yeah, that's one of my favorite combos. On good stocks. Only on good stocks. I did buy shares on my long-term port. Well, that's obviously very happy as Netflix makes new all-time highs pretty much. Almost at $1,000 per share. Very good stuff. But anyways, actually, speaking of which, let's take a look. One very quick look. Let's see. You can see how Netflix, right? See what I mean? See what Netflix did, right? This is kind of the thing I'm trying to say with Tesla, where, massive rocket, and then it finally cooled off, and a pretty decent cool off. It actually cooled off a decent amount, and you can see it pretty much came right back to the mean of the Bollinger Band. Look at that, almost to perfection. Not exactly to it, of course, but pretty close, right? Pretty close. And now it's rocketing back up. So this is kind of what I'm more or less expecting with Tesla, personally speaking, right? You can see we're still, we still got a ways to go, right? We still got a ways to go. We'll see. But that's just kind of an example to show you what I mean. But yeah, all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.